I am an Englishman living in the United Kingdom under a very left-wing activist Labour government that is enacting some draconian policies, and a lot of people all over the world, but especially in America and Australia, are writing to me and saying, Tim, what's going on over there, mate? It seems weird. And it is weird. We've got some riots going on. So why, I'm going to discuss a few things, like why have we got the riots going on? What's the future? I'm just going to try and give you, if I possibly can, a very impartial kind of maybe 10 minutes on how I see it. All right. So my background is a military background, left 5 years ago. All right. I consider myself, I hate to say centrist, I'm probably more right of centre. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in owning property. I believe in small government. These things are quite important to us, or they should be anyway. I believe the NHS is the fourth largest employer in the world. It's bloated, inefficient. I think we need to do something with that, even if that's people just paying some money at source or some minor sort of thing that they have to pay to go and see a doctor. And it will mean doctor's appointments aren't missed. Right, anyway, we're off. Look, let's have a look. What's going on? Why are people rioting in the UK? Well, they're rioting because the British feel very disenfranchised. They feel, I say the British, the people that still identify as being British, feel very left behind. They feel that the policing is very much two-tier here. So you police for British white people, and then you police for the minority groups that have come into the United Kingdom since about 1940. Remember, before 1940, there was about 1 to 2% minorities in the United Kingdom, and now there's about 20%, of which 6.5% are Muslim, 3%, about 3% are black. It doesn't matter. And then you've got Sikhs, Hindus, and everything else within those. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are obviously British, born to British parents. They're just minority groups, and we don't look at those in the same way as we look at the mass levels of people who have come in through immigration. There was more immigration in the last 6 months, as I said before in one of my videos, than there has been from the 1,000 years prior to 1940. So it's out of control, and Katie Hopkins has spoken on this recently because, remember, she lost her job a long time ago for reporting from southern Italy on immigration and seeing the Save the Children boats go to Africa, pick up people, bring them into Europe, and then move them across. And why are they doing that? Because it's so profitable to move people. It's so much more profitable, the movement of people, the movement of flesh, as she calls it, is so much more profitable than anything else. Drugs, guns, doesn't matter. And if you're at the end of that, if you're at government and you're a charity or a church charity, anything like that, or you're a Serco in the United Kingdom and you're building the prisons and you're building the hotels and you're holding pens for these people, or you're providing food for them, or whatever it might be, or rental accommodation, you're charging the government double what you're renting someone's house for to put immigrants in. For you, it's very profitable. It's very, very profitable. Movement of people is very, very profitable, and that is why it's happening. And with the United Kingdom, of course, we're at the end of the line. We've got a piece of water to cross as well. So you can charge a lot more. And that's why a lot of people are being pushed through to the United Kingdom, of course, because the people doing this make a lot more. And it is people in government that are making money out of this. It is the church charities. It is the other charities. And of course, it is the businesses that are making money out of this whole thing. I can't see it stopping. It's the same thing in America. So what do we do then? Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because at some point we do need to talk about intelligence levels within disparate communities. And I'm talking about British communities, I'm talking about Asian communities, I'm talking about all communities. We need to talk about intelligence, education. We need to talk about IQ, how we understand. Like, if you're not British, do you understand the British way of life? I'd argue you don't. Of course you don't. And if I had to explain what the British way of life was, it's probably very difficult for me to explain. There are some core tenets of being British. We believe in fairness, for example. We believe that a person should be able to own their own property, should be able to start a small business. We believe in queuing. We believe in tea. There's a lot of things that we believe in as British. But, there's a whole world of other stuff, of course, isn't there? And this is why I think Brexit was more about sovereignty than it was ever about trying to get rid of immigration. It was more about taking back our island. And of course, in doing so, it seems that immigration got a lot worse. It all comes from 1997 and Blair, doesn't it? And trying to rub the right's nose in diversity is what they tried to do, which of course is what they've done. So the issue we have with Keir Starmer and his government is that, and the police, of course, is that they're protecting the mosques over protecting the white, I would say, indigenous British people, and I say white initially, and I don't mean white, because there's plenty of black people, Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, that have been here for a very long time and are fundamentally embedded within British life and British culture, and I haven't got any issue with those at all, don't get me wrong. The reason I say white indigenous British is because these seem to be the young men that are rioting more than anyone else. You say, well, throw him in jail then. Well, Keir Starmer's doing that. He's fast-tracking them. He's putting them in jail, and the rest of their lives are going to be ruined by having a jail term. But why are they being thrown in jail? This is what you have to ask yourself, all right? Well, the reason, we talked about IQ, we talked about education, everything else, and we need to talk more about that if we really want to understand what's happening in the United Kingdom. Because what we don't really talk about is levels of poverty. And I'm not really going to talk about that now as such, but I am saying that the people that are rioting feel entirely left behind, and they feel left behind because they are, and they have been. The young white man is the one person who is not going to be going to university. If you look at the statistics, they are left behind, literally. There's more programs for young black kids in school than there are any programs for young white kids. And you have to remember as well, when we look at these community leaders and we look at police officers sitting down in front of Muslim men, which really annoys me, to be fair, because some of these Muslim men, especially Islamists within the Muslim community, which go unchallenged by the rest of the Muslim community, Paul, and then we have to sort that out as well. They see this as a power thing. And what happens is you get these communities who do have community leaders. We have the Black Police Federation, but we don't have the White Police Federation. We have Muslim councils. We have the Sikh and Hindus will have theirs. But what we don't have is there's no community leader representing the young white man community. There isn't anyone. There just isn't. So we don't get representation. There isn't any representation. These young men that write to me are lost, entirely lost. They haven't got a life. They haven't got a future of a career. Women aren't looking at young men. Why? Why aren't women looking at young men? And it's a very difficult place with all that kind of Instagram and all that kind of stuff, where you can scroll on the dating apps. I was chatting the other day. I had a guy up here stay with me, a friend of ours. He's dating, but no one's looking at him. He's a successful dude, late 40s, money, all this. People are scrolling past him. They're not even looking at that kind of guy. So what hope does a 23-year-old white kid living in a council estate in the north of England have? You know, the value structure, the value gain at that point is with young women. Young women have that value when they're older, and of course older guys tend to have more value as we age up through 50. It's just status and everything else. But at that young term, people aren't looking. There's no community leader. No one's looking after these people. They're not going to university. They haven't got jobs. As a young white man in the UK, it's a very difficult place to be. And now the government is saying that they're all racist, that they're all bigots, that they're all transphobes, all those kinds of homophobes, whatever. And now it's saying that they're violent, like chavs, council house and violent. And if you tell someone that enough times, they will start to believe it. And if there's nothing left in their life and they're worried about, you know, their kids being stabbed at some Taylor Swift dance party, then they're going to riot. They're going to try and take back their country. And yes, there are idiots within that. And as I said, intelligence and IQ is one factor that we really need to address. So that's really why the riots are happening, because the government has become very draconian and it's protecting minority communities more than it's protecting the ethnic British communities. The killing of the 3 girls by the son of the Rwandan immigrants that happened a couple of weeks ago was a trigger event. It wasn't the event that's causing the riots. It was a trigger event. What we're looking at in the UK is we don't know when the next Islamist attack is going to be. And why should we care about it? Like, why is that a thing? Like, why am I in the United Kingdom surrounded by an ideology that 6.5% of the population that has absolutely no place in the West whatsoever? And Islam has no place in the West. It doesn't. The problem that Islam has is in the Islamic lands, it seems that a lot of young people are turning their back on it. And so what's happening is a lot of radicals are moving across here that wouldn't really be welcome in their own homelands, and they're setting place up in a very liberal country that's wrapped up in virtue signaling and everything else, and they're coming over here. So the problem isn't Islam, the problem is radical Islam, of course, Islamism. But also, here's the thing, I'll tell you right now, I was never asked why they're here. why is anyone here? Why is it not just a British country? Why is it? Yeah, we got a natural flow of immigration. Keep it to that 30,000 that Cameron said. Right now it's like 600,000 every 6 months. It hasn't worked. We know it hasn't worked. It's never going to work. The country has been literally destroyed because it's not going to be an homogenous country anymore. My values aren't the same values as a Sikh, Hindu, or a Muslim, or whatever it might be. They're just not the same values. They never will be. We'll probably have some overlap somewhere. And I don't really, Sikhs and Hindus, I haven't got an issue. No one does. No one has an issue with that. Crikey, don't get me wrong. Fantastic peoples. And Muslims, I mean, British Muslims and stuff are fantastic people. But Islamists, no. There seems to be a lot of Islamists. Politicised Islam seems to be very, very big right now in the UK. And all the way across Europe, it's not going to end well. But the reason that the riots haven't been successful is because guys like me aren't interested at this stage. It's not our time. But people writing to me saying, Tim, what's going on over there? Don't worry about it. You know, we have tea. We're going to be okay. And we have millions, and I'm not even joking, millions of men and women like me who understand what the British flag means, what the flag of England means. They understand what it means to be an Englishman, English person, Englishman, Englishwoman, whatever you want to call it, guys. Don't worry about it. And it doesn't mean giving your country up to people that have no place to be here. We weren't asked. There's no reason for any of the immigrants that are coming here to be here, but they are, and we should have just been asked. And when we talk about asylum, fine, that's different, isn't it? You claim asylum, asylum's red and everything else, but we were never asked. And I think that's the problem. That's the issue. That's our government clamping down on the fact that we can't say this. This video is probably going to get taken down, but we can't say these things anymore. We can't repost things about riots anymore. We're not allowed to do this anymore on Twitter. This is why I've now gone and paid for Twitter, so that this gets out and I'll put this on Twitter, and hopefully it will be socialized more, because I believe we have to make a stand. And that stand, you know, let's say it does become violent, and I have to say in this video that I hope that is not the case, because if I was to say that is going to be the case, then I could be inciting violence, and that's against the law. And I do believe we shouldn't be inciting violence. Of course you shouldn't. But what's at the end of the train track? What is it? The government is supposed to be made up for the people, for the people, and it's not. It seems to be made up of business. It seems to be made up for other politicians. It seems to be made up for people like Serco to benefit from this traffic in this human flesh. It has nothing to do with the benefit of the British people, who arguably toil the land, pay the taxes. It doesn't seem to be anything to do with the British people anymore. When the government is protecting mosques, who are you protecting them from? Because I don't know anyone that's far right now. That's all it is. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Tim Davies, Bust Your Performance.